The unthinkable strike. The world was burning. In the skies above Earth, the battle raged on. Alien ships, unlike anything humanity had ever seen, filled the atmosphere like an unstoppable storm. Their sleek, deadly forms blotted out the sun, casting Earth in shadow. They had come with one purpose: to wipe humanity from the face of the galaxy. Captain Adam Walker was no stranger to war. He had fought in countless battles, each one more desperate than the last. But nothing had prepared him for the invasion. The aliens were relentless, and their technology far surpassed anything Earth's forces could muster. Humanity's military was broken, with cities in ruins, governments fallen, and civilians scattered in chaos. The last defense for Earth rested on the shoulders of the fighting men and women aboard a single, heavily modified starship, the Vanguard. Adam stood on the bridge, staring at the flickering holographic display in front of him. The alien fleet was moving toward Earth with terrifying precision. They had no mercy, and their fleet was vast. So many ships, so much firepower, it felt like the end was inevitable. "We don't have much time, Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Fields said, her voice tight with anxiety. She was standing beside Adam, watching the alien fleet advance on the monitors. The tension in the air was thick. "If we don't strike now, they'll reach Earth's atmosphere within the hour." Adam nodded. He knew the stakes. He had volunteered for this mission because it was the only chance Earth had left. If they didn't stop the alien mothership before it reached the planet, Earth would fall, no question about it. The Vanguard was their most advanced ship, equipped with experimental weapons designed to counter the alien technology. But even that didn't feel like enough. The odds were stacked against them, and Adam couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The aliens didn't behave like invaders. They seemed to have a higher purpose, something bigger than just conquering a planet. "Ready the weapons," Adam ordered, his voice steady despite the urgency pulsing through him. "We make our stand now." The crew moved quickly, each person focused on their task. There was no room for hesitation. The Vanguard's powerful engines rumbled to life, pushing the ship forward at full speed. As they moved into position, the enemy fleet seemed to grow larger on the view screen, their ships glowing ominously. "Captain, we have incoming fire," Commander Jason Lee called out from his station. "They're locking onto us, shields holding, but they're going to break soon." Adam clenched his fists. He had seen this kind of enemy before, unstoppable. But he wasn't going to let it end today. He wasn't going to let humanity fall without a fight. They had to do something they hadn't done before. They had to take the fight to the aliens, not just defend. "Deploy the secondary cannons. I want full power on the front lines," Adam commanded. "This is it. We hit them hard and fast." The ship's weapons hummed to life as the main cannons powered up, a brilliant energy pulse firing off toward the nearest alien warship. The impact exploded on the ship's shields, sending shockwaves through the Vanguard. But it wasn't enough. The alien ships were far more advanced than Earth's, and the weapons seemed to barely slow them down. "Shields are down to 40%, Captain," Lieutenant Fields reported, her voice tense. "We need to pull back." "No," Adam snapped, cutting her off. "We don't pull back. Not now. Not ever. We finish this here." He knew they were outmatched, but the longer they waited, the more humanity's chances slipped away. The alien fleet was closing in on Earth's orbit, and once they were in range, it would be too late. If they couldn't stop them here, the war would be over before it even began. "Prepare the quantum torpedoes," Adam ordered. "We have one shot at this." The crew worked quickly, but Adam felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Each second counted. The torpedoes were humanity's only chance to take out the mothership at the heart of the alien fleet. Without that, the smaller ships would keep coming, and Earth would fall. Suddenly, the Vanguard rocked violently. Adam was thrown forward, his head slamming against the control panel. The ship groaned as the alien fleet's main artillery hit them squarely. disabling the forward shields. "We're losing power," Fields shouted, frantically trying to reroute energy. "The thrusters are offline. We can't move." "We don't need to move," Adam said through gritted teeth, rubbing his aching head. His eyes flicked to the display. The alien mothership was within firing range, and they only had moments before it opened fire on Earth. He slammed his fist onto the console. "Lock onto their core systems. I want to fire everything we've got. Full power." The quantum torpedoes were primed and ready. A blast of light erupted from the ship's weapon bays, streaking through space and colliding with the alien mothership. For a split second, Adam thought they might have done it, thought they might have actually landed a blow that could cripple the invaders. But the explosion from the torpedo didn't have the desired effect. It barely made a dent in the ship's armor. The alien mothership absorbed the blast, and then, with a chilling hum, its cannons came to life. Adam's heart raced as the ship's main weapon aimed directly at Earth. A massive energy charge began to form. "Captain," Jason shouted from his station, "they're charging their main weapon. If we don't do something now, Earth is gone." Adam's mind raced. He didn't know how, but he had to stop it. They were out of time. Then it happened. The impossible occurred. Adam's body went rigid as a sudden, overwhelming surge of energy flowed through him. It wasn't from the ship. It wasn't from anything he had prepared for. He felt something alien, something outside of himself, invade his very being. The power surged through his veins, and before he could even comprehend what was happening, his mind went blank. He wasn't sure if it was the ship, his own instincts, or something deeper within him. But as the alien weapon charged for Earth, Adam raised his hand toward the display. There was no time to think, no time for strategy, just action. With a blinding flash, the alien weapon cut through the sky, but before it could fire, Adam's hand released a wave of energy. It collided with the alien weapon, sending shockwaves through space. The massive beam of light stopped mid-flight, and then everything went dark. Resurrection. The silence was suffocating. The Vanguard drifted through the void, the hum of its systems now reduced to a faint, almost imperceptible sound. The once vibrant bridge, filled with the bustle of a desperate crew, was now still. The screens were dark, and the ship's lights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Adam Walker lay unconscious in his seat, his face pale and drenched in sweat. His breath was shallow, his pulse weak. For a moment, no one moved. Lieutenant Sarah Fields was the first to snap out of the daze. She rushed to Adam's side, kneeling beside him. "Captain." "Adam, can you hear me?" Her voice trembled, but there was no answer. She placed her hand on his neck, feeling for a pulse. A brief moment of panic washed over her when she couldn't find one. "Vitals are flatlining," she shouted, her voice breaking. He's gone." Commander Jason Lee, still strapped to his chair at his station, looked on in disbelief. What the hell happened? He stopped the alien weapon, but at what cost? The crew had no answers. They were trained for battle, for tactics, for defense. But this was beyond anything they could have prepared for. Sarah slapped her communicator. "Dr. Mendez, we need you on the bridge, now." Within moments, the ship's lead medical officer, Dr. Rachel Mendez, appeared. She immediately took charge, examining Adam with practiced hands. Her brow furrowed as she ran a scanner over his body. "He's alive," she muttered under her breath, her voice tinged with confusion. But barely. The medical team worked quickly, connecting Adam to life support, but there was little they could do. His vitals remained dangerously low. For all intents and purposes, Captain Adam Walker should have been dead. Yet something strange was happening. His body, against all odds, was fighting to survive. "How is this possible?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely a breath. "He should be gone, but he's holding on." Dr. Mendez stepped back, her eyes narrowed in concentration. We need to run more tests. But we can't explain this right now. His brain activity is erratic. It's almost like he's having some kind of connection. I've never seen anything like this. The next few hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. The crew worked tirelessly to keep the Vanguard operational, despite the severe damage it had taken from the alien assault. The ship's systems were failing, and Earth's defenses were still vulnerable. But none of it mattered to Adam's team. They had to save him. Sarah stood at the bridge, staring out into the vast emptiness of space, her mind racing. It was clear to her now that the alien war was no longer just a battle for survival. Something had changed when Adam had touched that alien weapon. Something unnatural. She couldn't shake the feeling that they had just stumbled into something far bigger than anyone could have imagined. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the ship, Adam's body remained motionless. His skin was cold, and his breathing shallow. But inside his mind, a different story was unfolding. He was in a place that defied all logic, a vast, empty expanse of shifting colors and lights, like nothing he had ever seen. His mind felt disconnected from his body, and yet he could feel himself in this place, suspended between two worlds. The overwhelming sensation of alien intelligence surrounded him, something ancient, immeasurable, and powerful. Adam tried to move, to speak, but his body was not his own. He could sense the presence of something, someone, watching him. It wasn't like a voice or a thought. It was a feeling, a knowing that he was no longer alone. "Who are you?" Adam tried to say, but his words did not reach his lips. Instead, they echoed within his mind, a whisper carried by the strange force that enveloped him. The presence shifted, becoming clearer. A vision flashed in front of Adam's mind's eye. A planet, destroyed by war, its surface cracked and broken. Alien ships, vast and uncountable, flying over a ruined world. The ships were not invaders. They were running, fleeing from something, from a greater force. The vision shifted again, showing a different scene. A massive energy storm, one that seemed to stretch across entire galaxies. The alien fleet was trying to escape it, but the storm was consuming everything in its path. Then the presence seemed to speak, but not with words. It was more of a feeling, an overwhelming sense of knowledge. "You are the one who can stop it." Adam's heart raced, his mind struggling to understand what he was experiencing. He tried to focus, to control his thoughts, but the images kept coming. A great war, not between species, but between realms, between forces that no one on Earth could possibly comprehend. The voice, or presence, gave him another flash, a key, glowing with a strange energy, something that had been hidden away for eons, waiting for the right person to unlock it. "You must go back," the voice said, though it wasn't spoken in words. It was a command, an undeniable truth. Suddenly, Adam's mind snapped back to his body. He felt the cold, the weight of his physical form. He gasped for breath, his chest rising and falling rapidly. His eyes shot open, his body jerking as if waking from a nightmare. "Captain." Sarah's voice was the first thing he heard, urgent and relieved. "Adam, you're awake." For a moment, Adam simply stared at her, blinking, trying to piece together what had just happened. He could feel the presence, still lingering in the back of his mind, like an echo of something that could never fully be understood. The images, the feelings, the knowledge, it was all still there, pulsing within him. "What happened?" Adam asked, his voice hoarse. Where am I?" "You're alive," Sarah said, her eyes wide with relief. "But how? We thought you were gone." Adam sat up, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over him. "I don't know what happened," he said slowly, trying to make sense of the events. "But I've seen something otherworldly. And I think I know what we're really up against." He looked around at his crew, all of them waiting, uncertain but hopeful. The war, It's not what we thought. There's something bigger out there. Something we can't even imagine. The new weapon. The Vanguard trembled again, and the sound of the ship groaning echoed through the metal walls. The lights flickered, struggling against the dimming power reserves. Adam Walker stood at the center of the bridge, still shaken by what had happened during his time of unconsciousness. The alien presence, the visions, the overwhelming knowledge. It had all been real, but none of it made sense. What had he truly experienced during those 24 minutes of death? And what did it mean for Earth's future? His mind raced with questions as he tried to center himself. "Status report," he ordered, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts swirling in his head. Lieutenant Sarah Fields was the first to speak. "We've suffered heavy damage from the last encounter. The main power core is still offline. Shields are at 30%. But that's not the worst part, Captain." She hesitated, her eyes flicking nervously toward the large monitor displaying the enemy fleet. "The aliens, they're regrouping. They've strengthened their forces and are now heading directly toward Earth's orbit. They're getting ready for another attack." Adam's jaw tightened. He had hoped that the sudden shift in the battle would buy them some time. But the alien fleet had no intention of retreating. Instead, they were pressing their advantage, pushing forward with a renewed vigor. The stakes were higher now than ever before. The alien mothership, the one he had targeted with the quantum torpedoes, had absorbed their fire with disturbing ease. And with each passing second, Earth's defenses were becoming more and more irrelevant. "What about the quantum torpedoes? Are they operational?" Adam asked, already knowing the answer. "No," Sarah replied grimly. "The damage to the weapon system was critical. We don't have enough power to fire again. Not unless we get the core back online." Adam took a deep breath. The reality was sinking in. Their best weapon had failed. Humanity's last hope, the Vanguard, was running out of time. They couldn't afford another direct confrontation with the alien fleet. The aliens had been toying with them, showing just enough restraint to keep the fight going. But Adam knew that this game was nearing its end. If they didn't find a way to strike back, Earth would fall. Then, as if to punctuate his thoughts, the ship rocked once more. A loud explosion rattled the deck. The crew braced themselves, and alarms blared across the ship. "We've been hit," Jason Lee, the ship's commander, yelled from his station. "Multiple breaches in the lower decks. Shields are failing." "Damn it," Adam swore. His mind was racing. The feeling of power he had experienced just before he lost consciousness. It was still with him, lingering beneath the surface. He had never felt anything like it before. The strength, the knowledge, the connection to something larger than himself. It felt almost as though he had become a part of something beyond the physical universe. He didn't know if it was the alien force that had given him this power, or if it was something else entirely. But he knew one thing for certain. The key to humanity's survival might lie within him. But how to use it? "Get us into range of the alien fleet," Adam ordered. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to buy some time to figure this out." As the Vanguard shifted course, the crew worked in overdrive, patching up what they could, but it was clear that they were running on borrowed time. The aliens were closing in. There was no more time to waste. Adam stood alone, lost in thought. He had seen glimpses of a future beyond the war. He had felt the alien connection, sensed their motivations. But the most chilling part of it all was the realization that he might have already become something more than human. The powers that surged within him felt strange, unfamiliar, but not in a way that he could easily reject. They felt right. And the more he pushed those feelings away, the more they pulled at him, urging him to embrace them. "Captain." Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. She was standing beside him now, concern etched on her face. "What's going on? You've been acting strange ever since you came back." Adam turned to her, meeting her eyes. He could see the fear in her gaze. Fear not just for the future of humanity, but for him too. They had seen his brief burst of power, The way he had deflected the alien weapon's blast. They had witnessed the impossible. "I don't fully understand it myself," Adam confessed. "But I think I've changed. I can feel something inside me. Something that wasn't there before. It's not just power. It's like I'm connected to something. Something bigger than this war. Something that could end it." He felt Sarah's gaze on him, her uncertainty clear. She wanted to believe him, but the situation was dire, and his words didn't offer easy comfort. "We don't have the luxury of trying to figure it out," she said softly, but firmly. "We need you now, Adam. Earth needs you. Whatever is inside you, we need to use it before it's too late." He nodded. Sarah was right. He couldn't afford to wait any longer. They had no choice but to move forward, to put his strange new abilities to the test. The crew's work continued as the Vanguard drifted closer to the alien fleet. Adam could feel it now, this strange connection growing stronger with each passing second. The moment he focused on the alien ships, it was as though his senses opened up to them. He could see them clearly, each ship's intricate design, its energy signature, and most importantly, its weakness. He took a step forward, hands clenched into fists. "Sarah, open the comms," he said, his voice low but certain. "What are you doing, Captain?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with hesitation. "I'm not sure, but it's the only way." He turned back to face the view screen. He could see the alien ships closing in on Earth. His focus sharpened, and the connection to the alien force deepened. He reached out with his mind, willing the power to flow through him. His hands crackled with energy, and before he realized it, the same power surge that had stopped the alien weapon earlier was building inside him. His entire body felt as though it were thrumming with energy, ready to explode. "Captain," Sarah called, her voice a mixture of awe and fear. "I need to do this," Adam whispered. "I have to do this. For Earth." He stretched his hand toward the enemy ships, focusing all his thoughts on the mothership. It was enormous, far larger than any human vessel, but Adam didn't care. He wasn't human anymore. Not entirely. With a single motion, he unleashed the energy he had never fully understood until now. It surged out of his body like a violent wave, crackling through the ship's hull, through the very air around him, and out toward the enemy fleet. The view screen flickered, and the alien ships seemed to shudder as the energy reached them. But it wasn't just the ships. The mothership, its core, began to tremble as if reacting to Adam's force. Then, with a blinding flash, the entire screen went white. The hidden force. The silence that followed the blinding flash was deafening. The Vanguard was still, suspended in the cold vacuum of space. No alarms blared, no warning lights flashed. The ship's systems, damaged but functional, hummed quietly in the background. The crew stood frozen, staring at the view screen, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Adam Walker, their captain, their last hope, was barely conscious, slumped on the floor, his body twitching with exhaustion. His chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. But he wasn't dead. Not yet. The alien fleet, which had moments ago been closing in on Earth with unrelenting intent, had now stopped moving entirely. They didn't retreat. They didn't advance. They just hovered. For the first time in hours, there was a sense of stillness in the air. "Captain." Sarah Fields rushed to Adam's side, kneeling beside him. Her hands hovered over him, unsure what to do. His face was pale, his features strained, but he was alive. Barely. "Is he?" Jason Lee asked from his station, still in disbelief. The commander had been with Adam through countless missions, but this was something entirely different. What just happened? Did he do it? "I don't know," Sarah replied, her voice shaky. "I've never seen anything like this. He unleashed something, but he's not himself anymore. Whatever power he tapped into, it nearly destroyed him." Adam groaned, slowly lifting his head from the cold floor. His eyes flickered open, but they were different. Empty, almost. vacant. Sarah helped him sit up, but he winced as pain shot through his body. What? What happened? Adam asked, his voice barely a whisper. He sounded disoriented, as though he was waking from a dream he didn't understand. You stopped them, Captain, Sarah said, her words heavy with awe and disbelief. Whatever you did, the alien fleet, they're frozen in place. Adam's mind swirled with confusion. The last thing he remembered was the surge of energy. That connection he had felt deep within him. Something far beyond anything human, beyond even the alien technology they had been fighting. The images, the feeling of a greater power coursing through him. The battle, the flashes of light. Then, nothing. How? Adam asked weakly. How is this possible? We don't know, Jason said. The alien ships aren't moving. The mothership is just hovering there. It's like you somehow shut them down. But how? Adam's voice was strained. He didn't feel like himself anymore. The force that had surged through him felt both alien and familiar. Uncontrollable yet necessary. It felt like it was a part of him now, but he didn't know how to handle it. We don't have time for questions, Captain, Sarah interrupted, her eyes still locked on the view screen. The alien fleet was still, suspended in space, as though caught in a stasis field. But that didn't mean the danger was over. In fact, it only made the situation more dangerous. We can't just sit here. We have to know what this means. They're not attacking. But why aren't they leaving? Adam stood slowly, his body stiff from the strain of what he'd just unleashed. His legs felt weak beneath him, but he pushed through it. Prepare the weapons, he said, his voice now firm. Something's wrong. They're waiting for something. Sarah's brow furrowed. Waiting for what? Before Adam could answer, the alien mothership's hull shifted. A ripple of light ran across its surface, like the ship was coming alive in a way they hadn't seen before. The vast energy that radiated from it intensified, and Adam felt it. Again, the pull. He staggered backward as the sensation flooded his senses. It was like a low hum in the back of his mind, a vibration from the mothership that seemed to resonate with the strange force he had tapped into. An alien presence, far beyond anything he had encountered before. And then it spoke. The voice wasn't one Adam heard with his ears. It wasn't a spoken word. It was more like a feeling, a pulse, a command that rippled through the very fabric of space itself. It felt ancient. It felt alien. And yet, there was something oddly familiar about it. You have awakened something far greater than you understand. Adam's heart skipped a beat. His blood ran cold as the words echoed in his mind, sent chills down his spine. The voice wasn't speaking to the crew. It wasn't speaking to Earth. It was speaking to him. It knew him. What is this? Adam whispered to himself, more to try to make sense of it than to ask anyone else. The alien mothership seemed to pulse, its energy signature flaring in response to his words. The voice continued, stronger now. You are not the first. You are the last of your kind, but the first to see. Your planet is insignificant. But you have unlocked something we have kept hidden for eons. The ship's energy field began to stretch, expanding outward in waves. Adam could feel it now, deep within his chest, like an invisible force tugging at his very core. This wasn't just an alien fleet. It wasn't just a battle for survival. There was something more, something they hadn't prepared for. Captain. Sarah's voice was tentative, but it was clear that the crew was sensing it too. They felt it. That heavy, oppressive weight pressing down on them. What's happening? What is that voice? Adam's mind raced. He could hear the alien's words, but they didn't make sense. We need to prepare, he said suddenly. We're not facing an invasion anymore. We're facing a reawakening. The ship rumbled again, a deep, ominous sound this time. The mothership, the alien force, was no longer idle. It was searching for something. Something that it hadn't found in the Vanguard, or in Adam, but it was coming. It was coming for Earth, and whatever it was, Adam could feel it in his bones. The end was only just beginning. As the alien fleet shifted, the central mothership's massive form began to expand in a way Adam had never seen. Its dark surface shimmered like a veil of shadows being pulled apart, revealing intricate designs and pulsing energy lines that glowed a deep, eerie blue. Then the voice spoke again, only this time. Adam felt it in his very mind. It was a command, a declaration. We have waited for eons. Now, the time has come. You are no longer a simple threat. You are the key. Adam felt something surge within him. A realization. He wasn't just facing an alien invasion. He wasn't just a human caught in a war. He was the key, but to what? And why had the aliens been waiting for him? His heart pounded in his chest, and the weight of what was happening crashed over him. He wasn't just fighting for Earth's survival anymore. He was fighting for the entirety of existence, and the future of every living thing in the galaxy. The question was, would he win? Or would he become the weapon the aliens had been waiting for? The reckoning. The air on the Vanguard was thick with tension, the kind that gnaws at your nerves and presses down on your chest, making every breath feel like an effort. Adam Walker stood at the helm, his hands clenched tightly around the control panel. His body still ached from the energy surge he had unleashed earlier, but it was nothing compared to the heavy weight pressing down on his mind. The alien mothership's voice was still in his head, its message reverberating in his thoughts like an echo he couldn't escape. You are the key. What did it mean? Adam didn't know, but he knew one thing for sure. The war for Earth's survival had taken a turn, and he was at the center of it. It wasn't just a matter of defeating an alien invasion anymore. This was something bigger, something ancient, and it had awakened. The alien fleet was still suspended in space, its ships as still and silent as statues, as though waiting for the next move. Adam had expected an immediate counterattack, an onslaught of weapons or an invasion. But instead, the mothership loomed like a great dark sentinel, its energy growing stronger by the second. "Captain," Sarah Fields said from behind him, her voice tense, "we can't just stand here. Whatever's happening, we need to act fast." Adam didn't turn to face her, though he could feel her anxiety. The entire crew was on edge. They'd seen what he could do, had witnessed firsthand the power he had unknowingly tapped into. But no one knew what it meant or how to control it. He didn't know how to control it. "I know," Adam muttered, his eyes still fixed on the screen in front of him. "But I don't know what to do. This isn't just about firing weapons. This isn't a regular battle anymore." Jason Lee, the ship's commander, approached cautiously. "We've tried every tactic in the book, Captain. Nothing's worked. The mothership's shield is still impenetrable, and if we keep wasting time here, we'll be sitting ducks." Adam's jaw tightened. "You're right, but we can't just throw ourselves at them like before. We need to understand what we're facing." And yet, the longer they waited, the more the alien presence seemed to push against them, like a constant pressure pressing from all sides. Adam could feel it, that pull, that sense of something out of place, as though the universe itself was shifting. Then the voice returned, cutting through the tension like a blade. "You are not ready, human." Adam's heart skipped. He knew that voice, the one that had spoken directly into his mind. The alien presence, the force behind the mothership. It had been speaking to him since the moment he had activated the power within himself. "You believe you are in control, but you are only a part of a much larger design." Adam's grip on the controls tightened. "What do you want?" he demanded aloud, even though he knew the answer wasn't so simple. "Why are you doing this?" There was a pause, and then the voice answered, the tone almost curious. "You will understand soon enough, Adam Walker. You will be the bridge, the link between your kind and the true power that has been hidden from you for eons." His pulse quickened. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" The voice didn't answer, but in the silence, Adam felt a shift, a deep hum in the fabric of space around him. The alien mothership was reacting to his challenge, responding in ways he couldn't fully understand. It felt as though it was measuring him, as though it were deciding what to do with him. He wasn't just the leader of this crew anymore. He wasn't just a human soldier. He was something else. The key. "Captain, the fleet is moving," Jason called out. His voice snapped Adam back to the present. The view screen flickered, and the alien ships that had been still suddenly began to realign, their formations shifting in a way that signaled a new threat. It wasn't an attack. Not yet, but it was preparation. They were getting ready to do something. Something big. "We need to move," Adam said, pushing away from the control panel. He was still shaken by what he had just experienced, but there was no time for hesitation. He had to act. "Get us out of here. We need to put some distance between us and their fleet." The crew scrambled to comply, but Adam's mind was already racing ahead of them. He could feel the force of the alien presence, like a gravitational pull trying to drag him in. But he resisted. For now, anyway. There was still too much at stake. Earth's survival depended on him understanding what he had just unleashed. But as the Vanguard maneuvered away from the fleet, Adam realized something. It wasn't just the alien ships that were closing in. It was something else. Something older. Something buried deep within the universe itself. Something that had been waiting for this moment. And it was coming for him. On the alien mothership, a figure stood in the control room, his hands resting lightly on the console. His body was humanoid in shape, but his face was unlike anything Adam had ever seen. His skin was a dark, almost translucent shade, his eyes glowing with an unnatural, shifting light. The figure raised a hand, and the voice spoke once more, not just in Adam's mind, but in the very air around the mothership. "The time has come to face your destiny, Adam Walker. The fate of your species is no longer in your hands." The figure turned toward the dark expanse of space before him. The alien fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their weapons powering up, their shields glowing with an ominous energy. The key has been awakened, and now the final choice will be made. Back on the Vanguard, Adam suddenly felt a wave of dread wash over him. The voice, the presence, it was no longer just a disembodied command. It was something personal, something that understood him in ways he didn't understand himself. The alien presence wasn't trying to destroy them. It wasn't just fighting for dominance. No, it was trying to reshape reality itself. And Adam was at the center of it all. Adam staggered back from the command console, his chest tightening. No, this can't be happening. Sarah rushed to his side, her expression filled with concern. "Captain, what's wrong? What's going on?" He didn't answer. He didn't have the words. The alien force wasn't just here to conquer. It was here to redefine everything Adam thought he knew about the universe. And the worst part was, he could feel it. It was pulling him in. He wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore. He was fighting for the universe itself. The final choice. The Vanguard rocked violently, throwing everyone off balance as the alien mothership's energy intensified. Alarms screamed throughout the ship, flashing red lights bathing the command deck in a frantic pulsing glow. The walls groaned under the pressure, the hull straining as if the very fabric of space around them was beginning to bend. "Captain," Jason Lee shouted, gripping the edge of the console to steady himself. "They're powering up their weapons. We can't outrun them with these engines." Adam Walker, still reeling from the mental strain of the alien presence that had become an invasive part of his thoughts, stumbled to his feet. His vision blurred for a moment, but he forced himself to focus. His hands gripped the console, the familiar controls grounding him, but the force was still there, pulsing at the edges of his awareness. The pull, that voice, that alien consciousness, was growing stronger, more insistent. "You will make your choice now, Adam Walker. The balance of all that exists depends on it." He tried to push the voice out of his head, but it felt like it was entwined with his very thoughts. His chest tightened, each breath harder than the last. There was something in the voice, something familiar, almost personal. The feeling of being chosen. But what was he meant to choose? The stakes were higher than anything he had ever imagined. It wasn't just Earth's fate that hung in the balance. It was the entire galaxy. The universe itself. "Captain," Sarah Fields said quietly, stepping up beside him. "What's happening? What are you hearing?" He didn't answer at first. He couldn't. What could he say? How could he explain the power that was surging through him? The overwhelming sensation that something ancient, something far beyond the comprehension of humanity, had marked him as the key to something far larger than himself. The ship lurched again as another wave of energy rippled through space. The alien fleet, which had once been suspended in place, now began to move. But it wasn't like before. Now, they were in perfect synchronization, as though the entire fleet had become one mind, one force. And at the center of it, the mothership loomed large, its dark surface rippling with energy, like it was alive. Adam felt a strange sense of recognition. It wasn't just a ship. It wasn't just an alien warship. No, this was more. He had seen something like it before. Something ancient. Something buried. "You are awakening what you cannot control," the voice came again. And this time, it wasn't a question. It was a warning. His mind raced. He couldn't stay in this mental tug-of-war any longer. It was time to act. But how? What was he supposed to do when the very fate of existence was on his shoulders? "What do you want from me?" Adam whispered, his voice filled with desperation. He wasn't sure if he was speaking to the alien presence or to himself. "Why me? Why this ship?" There was a long pause. Then the voice replied, quieter this time. "Because you are the only one who can see it. You are the key to unlocking the next evolution. Humanity will be reborn, but only if you let it." Sarah's eyes widened. "Evolution. Reborn. Adam, what is it saying?" Adam's hands trembled on the console. He knew that whatever he was about to do, it would change everything. But the question was, would he be able to control it? Could he wield the power that had been thrust upon him? Or would he be consumed by it? The voice returned once more, its tone cold and distant, yet undeniably urgent. "The ship will respond to you, Adam Walker. It recognizes you. It wants you. But do not mistake this for a blessing. You are a part of a greater plan, and the time for hesitation has passed." Adam's mind was a whirlwind. His instincts told him to resist, to fight back against this force trying to take over his very soul. But the alien presence wasn't like anything he'd faced before. This wasn't just a warship. This was something ancient, something with a purpose far beyond anything humanity had ever understood. And there was no turning back now. The voice grew louder, more insistent, like 1,000 thoughts converging in his mind at once. "Choose now. Humanity will either evolve beyond its limits or be lost in the void. The power is yours to command. What will you do, Adam Walker?" It was the final test. His decision would determine not just Earth's fate, but the fate of every species in the galaxy. The final choice. The Vanguard rocked violently, throwing everyone off balance as the alien mothership's energy intensified. Alarms screamed throughout the ship, flashing red lights bathing the command deck in a frantic pulsing glow. The walls groaned under the pressure, the hull straining as if the very fabric of space around them was beginning to bend. "Captain," Jason Lee shouted, gripping the edge of the console to steady himself. "They're powering up their weapons. We can't outrun them with these engines." Adam Walker, still reeling from the mental strain of the alien presence that had become an invasive part of his thoughts, stumbled to his feet. His vision blurred for a moment, but he forced himself to focus. His hands gripped the console, the familiar controls grounding him, but the force was still there, pulsing at the edges of his awareness. The pull, that voice, that alien consciousness was growing stronger, more insistent. "You will make your choice now, Adam Walker. The balance of all that exists depends on it." He tried to push the voice out of his head, but it felt like it was entwined with his very thoughts. His chest tightened, each breath harder than the last. There was something in the voice, something familiar, almost personal. The feeling of being chosen. But what was he meant to choose? The stakes were higher than anything he had ever imagined. It wasn't just Earth's fate that hung in the balance. It was the entire galaxy. The universe itself. "Captain," Sarah Fields said quietly, stepping up beside him. "What's happening? What are you hearing?" He didn't answer at first. He couldn't. What could he say? How could he explain the power that was surging through him? The overwhelming sensation that something ancient, something far beyond the comprehension of humanity, had marked him as the key to something far larger than himself. The ship lurched again as another wave of energy rippled through space. The alien fleet, which had once been suspended in place, now began to move. But it wasn't like before. Now they were in perfect synchronization, as though the entire fleet had become one mind, one force. And at the center of it, the mothership loomed large, its dark surface rippling with energy, like it was alive. Adam felt a strange sense of recognition. It wasn't just a ship. It wasn't just an alien warship. No, this was more. He had seen something like it before. Something ancient. Something buried. "You are awakening what you cannot control," the voice came again. And this time, it wasn't a question. It was a warning. His mind raced. He couldn't stay in this mental tug-of-war any longer. It was time to act. But how? What was he supposed to do when the very fate of existence was on his shoulders? "What do you want from me?" Adam whispered, his voice filled with desperation. He wasn't sure if he was speaking to the alien presence or to himself. "Why me? Why this ship?" There was a long pause. Then the voice replied, quieter this time. "Because you are the only one who can see it. You are the key to unlocking the next evolution. Humanity will be reborn, but only if you let it." Sarah's eyes widened. Evolution. Reborn. "Adam, what is it saying?" Adam's hands trembled on the console. He knew that whatever he was about to do, it would change everything. But the question was, would he be able to control it? Could he wield the power that had been thrust upon him? Or would he be consumed by it? The voice returned once more, its tone cold and distant, yet undeniably urgent. "The ship will respond to you, Adam Walker. It recognizes you. It wants you. But do not mistake this for a blessing. You are a part of a greater plan, and the time for hesitation has passed." Adam's mind was a whirlwind. His instincts told him to resist, to fight back against this force trying to take over his very soul. But the alien presence wasn't like anything he'd faced before. This wasn't just a warship. This was something ancient, something with a purpose far beyond anything humanity had ever understood. And there was no turning back now. The voice grew louder, more insistent, like 1,000 thoughts converging in his mind at once. "Choose now. Humanity will either evolve beyond its limits or be lost in the void. The power is yours to command. What will you do, Adam Walker?" It was the final test. His decision would determine not just Earth's fate, but the fate of every species in the galaxy. The awakening. The moment hung in the air like the final breath before a storm. The tension was suffocating, and Adam Walker could feel every heartbeat in his chest like a drum, thundering in his ears. His mind, once filled with uncertainty, now burned with clarity. The voice, the alien presence, the pull of power, it all led to this moment. The fate of humanity and every living creature in the galaxy rested squarely on his shoulders. "Adam," Sarah said, her voice trembling, "you need to make a decision. We can't outrun them. We can't hide. You have the power, but you have to choose how to use it. What will it be?" Adam didn't answer immediately. He couldn't. There were too many questions, too many implications, but one truth stood clear in his mind now. This power was not a gift. It was a curse, and its consequences could be catastrophic. "You are the key," The voice had said, over and over, its tone both inviting and threatening. It had offered him the means to change everything, to reshape the universe itself. But at what cost? Outside, the alien fleet closed in, their weapons charging. The mothership, vast and dark, was a looming shadow, its power overwhelming. Adam could feel its presence like a weight pressing down on the very fabric of space around him. He could hear its hum in his bones, its pull like a magnet tugging at his soul. Heat was the key. The words echoed in his mind, and he finally understood. This wasn't just about defeating the invaders. This was a moment of transformation. Adam wasn't just a soldier or a captain anymore. He wasn't even just a human. He was a bridge, the link between the unknown, between the old powers of the universe and the potential of humanity. And he could feel it. The power, raw and untamed, surged through his veins, igniting every cell in his body. It was like being alive in a way he'd never known before, like he was part of something immense, something infinite. But with it came a sense of danger, a realization that if he lost control, if he let it consume him, he could become something other, something not human, something that could reshape or destroy everything. Jason Lee's voice broke through his thoughts. Captain, they're locking weapons. This is it. We need to make a choice. Now. Sarah reached out to him, her eyes filled with desperation. You don't have to do this alone. Whatever you decide, we'll stand with you. Adam looked at her, and in that moment, he realized something crucial. Humanity had always survived because of the strength of its connections, the bonds between people, the ability to make choices even when the stakes were impossibly high. This wasn't just about the power inside him. It was about what he stood for, what humanity stood for. He looked at the alien fleet gathering outside the ship's viewports, their weapons ready to fire. The time had come. No more waiting. No more uncertainty. The voice, that alien force, had given him the power. But now, Adam had to decide how to use it, and whether it would be the end of everything, or the start of something entirely new. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. The pull of the alien power was still there, stronger than ever, but now it was under his control. He had to trust that he could wield it. He had to believe that humanity had the strength to shape its own destiny. Adam turned to face the command console. We have one shot at this. Jason nodded grimly. What are you thinking, Captain? I'm thinking, Adam said, his voice steady, that this is the only chance we have. The aliens are trying to control us, trying to force us into something we're not. But what if we don't fight them in the way they expect? Sarah's eyes widened, understanding dawning. You're going to use the power, but not to destroy them. You're going to turn the tables. Adam nodded. Exactly. He placed both hands firmly on the control panel, feeling the surge of energy pulsing through him, ready to be unleashed. But he wasn't going to use it like a weapon. Not this time. All right, everyone, he said, his voice calm but filled with purpose. I'm going to open a channel to the alien fleet. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about showing them what humanity can do when it's pushed to the brink. We will not be subjugated. Not by them. Not by anyone. The crew watched in silence as Adam's fingers flew over the controls. In that moment, he knew what he had to do. He wasn't just going to fight the aliens. He was going to communicate with them. He was going to make them understand that Earth and humanity were not weak, that they were not just an easy target to be conquered. He opened the communications channel, and the voice came through immediately, its cold, alien tone reverberating in his mind. You have chosen to defy us, Adam Walker. You will not survive this. You cannot. Adam's grip tightened on the controls, but his voice was unwavering. I'm not defying you. I'm showing you that we are more than what you think. We are not just pawns in your game. We are human, and we will fight for our future. You may have power, but we have will. And that is something you cannot understand. There was a long pause, and for a moment, the alien voice fell silent. Adam felt the weight of the universe pressing down on him, the pull of the alien power and the consequences of his actions, but he held firm. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about making a statement. And then something unexpected happened. The alien fleet slowed. The energy that had been building, an immense, destructive force, began to falter. What is this? The voice in his mind was no longer certain. It was confused. What are you doing, human? Adam didn't answer. He didn't need to. The energy within him surged, and in that moment, he felt a connection, not just with the alien force, but with something deeper, something more ancient. The true power. And he made his choice. The alien fleet trembled, its ships momentarily faltering, as if sensing the shift in the balance of power. The mothership, the core of their force, hummed with an energy that was no longer solely its own. The power Adam had unlocked was spreading, reaching out, but now, it was different. It wasn't destructive. It wasn't chaotic. It was transformative. A surge of light flashed through the void of space, brighter than anything the crew had ever seen. The alien ships faltered, their weapons discharging into space, useless. The voice in Adam's mind began to change. It wasn't threatening anymore. It was curious. You have awakened something within us, Adam Walker, but you have done more. You have shown us something we thought lost. Humanity's will. Its spirit. Adam stood tall at the helm, his breath steady as he faced the alien fleet. This isn't over, he said softly, but with unwavering confidence. We're just getting started. The galaxy had changed in that instant. Earth had made its stand, and humanity had proved that it could not be crushed, no matter how powerful the enemy. But the true battle was just beginning. Cliffhanger. The alien mothership paused, and the fleet shifted, its energy fluctuating. Was this the moment of victory? Or was it only the beginning of a much larger, more dangerous war? The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and Adam knew one thing for sure. The real fight had only just begun.